Hello, everyone, and welcome to Asian Pacific Voices Radio, where you'll find stimulating conversations that explore diverse topics and stories that are impacting our Asian Pacific American communities. I'm your host, Rasha Goel, and I'm so thrilled today. I have the pleasure to have the executive director of the Center for Asian American Media, also known as CAAM. Now, under his leadership, CAAM has been a vital platform for Asian American stories and storytellers, fostering community connections and cultural awareness through a variety of engaging programs and initiatives. Their dedication to amplifying undertold narratives has significantly impacted the representation of Asian Americans in the media. And we're so excited to dive into his journey, the incredible work of CAAM, and some fun anecdotes along the way. Mr. Stephen Gong, welcome to Asian Pacific Voices Radio. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Rasha. It's my pleasure.
Oh, it is our pleasure to have you here. So much history and so much work that you've contributed to. I'd love to start off about talking about your personal journey and what inspired you to become the executive director of CAAM. And if there's any personal stories you have or anything professionally that's impacted you, please feel free to include that.
Wow, Rasha. Thank you. Thank you. And it's been a long journey because I've been in this business for a long time. So I became the executive director in 2006, which is like 18 years ago, which is a longevity. But I've actually been associated with CAAM for most of its 40-year history. You see, I was at the founding conference. We were founded at a Asian American Producers Conference held at UC Berkeley in the summer of 1980. And I was on a panel at that conference representing the National Endowment for the Arts, where I was a program officer, very, very junior actually. But we were one of the few entities that would fund a living filmmaker, an independent filmmaker, and that field was just beginning to develop. There was a producer by the name of Lonnie Ding, who was out here in San Francisco, and she was really the pioneer founding spirit. She rounded up all of the Asian Americans who were involved in film, independent film, and public television at that time. And the conference was supported by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, and they have been our funding partner for all of these 44 years. And for a number of years after I left the Arts Endowment, I was on the board of CAAM. It was called NATA then, National Asian American Telecommunications Association. Not necessary to remember, but 23 syllables, so you can see why we eventually changed our name to CAAM. but anyway, it's been a personal, fulfillment. I've been so privileged to work in film, but to work in this arts and cultural and identity focused, and one that has really allowed me to learn so much about the Asian American community and to try to serve it. So it's really been just this lifelong wonderful. It's a cliche, I guess, to say that I feel like I'd almost work for nothing just to be able to do this work when I was a board member. But to be finally, it was almost like a retirement from the job I was holding over at Pacific Film Archive at UC Berkeley, when I decided, I really wanted the experience of being an executive director, because in a way at that time, there were relatively few Asian American leaders, right, on an executive level, on almost any level of media. Now it's much more common, which is great to say.
Yeah. And, I find it so intriguing because to think about, as you were mentioning, 44 years, right? And we are now still seeing a lot of development happening, a lot of visibility, which I'm going to talk to you in a little bit about. I had seen a video about a conversation you had done regarding visibility, but I don't even know if a lot of people know the history of how long this movement has been going on, just because it's been so out there in the media now. So thank you for sharing that, because I don't think a lot of people are aware of that, or I could be wrong. I didn't realize that there's been decades of this work already being done.
Absolutely. As they say, every generation in a way has to place itself and find out the context for the generation. So it's not a surprise. Um, we came out of the civil rights and anti-war era, and in a way, it's not surprising. We were the kind of the first large cohort of Asian Americans who, were involved in these movements. And what we were aware of was that there were no authentic images or stories of us in mainstream media. And then you have to remember that mainstream media at that time were like five national television channels, like two local, movies only in theaters, no streaming at all, so it
Right.
was such a different media world, but one in which, if, as you can imagine, uh, knowledge about anyone other than the default white, male
Mm-hmm.
perspective was non-existent, was completely stereotyped. So we were founded with in a sense, a clear mission to start to address that absence of representation, and it's guided us. And yeah, we're definitely in a different era. It's still a real challenging one overall for so many reasons, and I love to talk with you about how our
Yes.
strategies have evolved, right? And what becomes the most important thing work for us to undertake.
Well, let's talk about that. Tell us a little bit more about CAM's mission and how it aims to impact the Asian American community.
Yeah, I think of it in a twofold way. The mission broadly is to present stories that convey the richness and diversity of Asian American experiences. And the key word there, and I will add to the broadest audience as possible, because a lot of our funding does come from public television, PBS, and in some ways PBS is in danger of in this new media landscape of being somewhat obsolete, but it is evolving also. And the important thing is to be reminded of how vital it is that we have a shared communications platform, because the country is so divided now, polarized,
Yes.
but in a way, the terrible way, in a manipulative way, right, for political gain. I won't go into a lot more, but I but
Yeah.
I expect a lot of folks in your audience understand the because we're the victims of it, all immigrant
Yeah.
communities. But the main point is the diversity of Asian American experiences, because in so many ways, our community, the Asian American community, is so diverse, and and to me, it's like a metaphor. If we can demonstrate the importance of understanding the Asian American diversity, it's really the leg up on understanding overall American diversity, right? And what we all need to
Yes.
do to create a just society. But the second part that I wanted to talk about that undergirds all of our work is how each of us in our communities and even individually uh, deserve to and need to see ourselves represented in media, right? It
Mm-hmm.
is so important to feeling like you belong in this society, in this culture, that you can participate in it, that you can be centered in it. And we know that from all kinds of studies about young people, right? If you only see stereotypes or do not see yourself at all, it's in a way of feeling like you're excluded from participating. So our 2 points are this: we try to tell stories that are authentic to lived experiences from the perspective uh, of Asian American producers who are deeply connected to their stories, so that the viewers, the subjects of the story, can see that it's authentic. But then the second part of it is really to project and provide these images out to the broad audience, right? So it isn't just for our own communities. All other communities need to see and gain, right, a deeper understanding of how our communities came here, what that our hopes and dreams, that we have so much in common with every other type of community. So that those are the kind of guiding stars for our work.
And I think that's so helpful. One of the things that I've always realized too is, as you were saying, growing up, I didn't see people like me in the media, Stephen. So even for me to want to pursue a career in this field was kind of off the beaten path because I didn't have anyone to follow. But in my mind, I kept thinking, I want to be the first, or I want to be one of the ones that represents my community. So it's so wonderful to know that there is an establishment, an organization like CAAM that is supporting us now, or a place that we can come as creatives to maybe get guidance or be a part of something. One of the things that's a huge flagship event for the organization is the CAMFest. So can you talk a little bit more about the significance of the CAMFest and its impact?
Sure, Rasha. As a matter of fact, let's see. So we were formed as a nonprofit organization in 1980, and we received, very modest funding. But what it was to acquire some documentary films for public television, and that has formed the bedrock of a lot of that work. Within the second year of our creation, 1982, we started the film festival, and for its first, I want to say, close to 30 years, it was known as the San Francisco International Asian American Film Festival. Also about 25 syllables. So you can imagine if we said all of that presented by Nata, it was.
It's a lot of syllables.
It was a communications and marketing obstacle course. Yeah. So we shortened it in about 15 years ago to CAMFest, and the whole idea there is to absolutely to have a means to launch the films that we help produce, the documentary films largely, but also to recognize this growing number of narrative work. And we also would show short films as well as, long form or feature length films, documentary, narrative, as well as experimental films. So it was really to try to provide a place where filmmakers could really interact with audiences, meet one another. There's something quite special about film festivals in that way. And sadly, we're going through a transition once more, right? Where what we used to call the movie-going experience in theaters, this is becoming a more difficult transition because now we can look on so many different size screens, right? At any time, but
the phone isn't the same, Stephen. The phone compared to the theater experience is just not the same.
That is absolutely right, Rachel. Thank you so much.
I mean, I'm all about technology and us moving forward, but I think there's this special, as a producer as well, and someone who just loves films, I think there's a certain experience that really touches your heart that cannot be conveyed through all of the mediums at this time. That's just my feeling.
Oh, we're right there, right back at you. One of the most amazing experiences each year is we traditionally hold our opening night in a grand movie palace in San Francisco called the Castro Theater. It's being renovated right now, so we have to find another temporary home. But it's about 1,400 seats, and when on opening night it's sold out, and you have an Asian American film with the filmmakers present and the actors and actresses, the whole theater just levitates. It really does. And what we feel like is it creates community, right?
Yes.
The audience is actually quite diverse, of all different, members of our very diverse community, plus, all of our friends and family, which is another level of diversity. But what is amazing is that we can coalesce, as you say, around that one narrative and really feel like we're seeing ourselves on a major screen in a movie palace. There's no feeling quite like that.
Mm-mm. And now is CAMFest open? Is it available to all filmmakers? Like if I was making a film or I had a short film, would I be, I mean, I'm sure there's requirements, but would I be eligible?
Absolutely eligible.
Okay.
Yes. We put out an annual call and we go through 100 submissions. And, it's a bit frustrating, I must say, always, because you only have so many slots where you can select work. But you know what is it's amazing and heartening to know that there are so many young filmmakers who want to get into the business and they pour their hearts out, into the work. There are still a lot of independent narrative films and so many wonderful and important documentaries. So yeah, we do a call for entries and then we have a multi-stepped selection process to arrive at what the films that we select to present.
Okay, so you have CAMFest. Are there any other educational initiatives or youth programs that CAM provides to inspire the next generation of storytellers?
Yes, absolutely. Although, gosh, maybe a theme for today's conversation in a way is how things are changing so much. We've had a long-standing distribution service, and one of the things is it's primarily documentary film. We make them available to libraries, schools, universities, colleges, and I would think a lot of your listeners, if they took Asian American studies on a college level, they are most undoubtedly seeing films that we distribute in that way. And so many of the fundamental stories about Asian American history, like the internment of Japanese Americans, that has all been the result of documentary films that we have helped produce and then made available so that it can have an effect on our education system, frankly. And then youth programs, yes, conveying, sort of developing talent development is one of our core activities. We have a fellowship program for young filmmakers where they select. This is for somewhat more experienced filmmakers, but still at the early stages of their career. And they identify a mentor they'd like to work with who's already experienced. And it's more like a collaborative fellowship that we offer now. And we also have been experimenting, and we've done it at different times with family programming as well as younger youth media work, and we'll continue doing that moving forward.
That's exciting. I think I feel mentorship is so important, Stephen. That's something I wish I had had, but I'm able to provide now. I think that's very, very significant. There's a project I want to talk to you about real quick. The 1920s Chinatown Insider project. Tell me the significance of this and the impact this project had.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's a collaborative project. It's available on Google Arts and Culture, the online sort of museum quality exhibition level, and it is, as you said, Rasha, available under that title, Chinatown Insider. A dear friend of mine named Professor Mark Johnson, who is one of the leading authorities on Asian visual arts, approached me. We had some mutual friends who uh, wanted to do further research into a remarkable collection of photographs of San Francisco Chinatown from a commercial photography studio called the Maze Studio that existed from around 1923 up until the 1970s. And the remarkable story is that this photographic legacy, which is really amazing in its own right, is the result of a happy accident. Because in the 1970s, the couple that ran this studio for decades had passed away, and they were cleaning out their photography studio, whoever had taken it over. And all of these photographs and negatives were thrown into a dumpster out front.
Wow.
And a local photographer and art historian named Wiley Wong happened to be passing by, and thank goodness he rescued a number of them. He went inside, he asked if he could buy, purchase, and it was remarkable. So he saved about 500 of these photographs and recently donated them to the Stanford Library, and they understood that this was unique, and so the word got up to Professor Johnson, to Mark, and he reached out to me, and we have a project in Chinatown now to build a new cultural facility called Edge on the Square. And the entity we formed in collaboration is called the Chinatown Media and Arts Collaborative. And the idea is to use authentic storytelling. So this is a little bit of a offshoot branch of CAAM's founding mission. Use authentic storytelling to attract cultural tourists to San Francisco. Use this type of legacy that the Maze Studio represents, just one example of it, to really educate people about our histories and about resilience, and then to make Chinatown as a neighborhood, as a vibrant urban neighborhood, keep it sustainable with authentic culture rather than being hollowed out, right? And the original inhabitants move out. So yeah, it's a long-term project. I thank you for drawing attention to it. So the Chinatown Insider is just the first way of really saying, you know what, you look at these photographs and you think you wonder what it reveals. And the more you dig into it, you see there are unique aspects. It's not accidental how we have survived even in the face of the Chinese Exclusion Act and other acts of violence and hatred. The community really banded together, and the photographs give us a way in to talk about that process that, frankly, we're reliving today in our community leadership. Yeah.
I love that you're doing that project. I'm not happy that we're reliving because we should be growing, right? I want to talk to you about that because you have seen so much in your tenure. And, I was listening to something where you were, I think this was just last year regarding Asian American visibility. I would love to get your thoughts, Stephen, on where we've been, but where do you think we are right now? Because as much as I feel that there's been some movement, I don't know why there's a part of me that still feels like something's missing. Like I still feel there's this constant struggle that we're still pushing, especially when it comes to media, especially when it comes to the entertainment industry. So I'd love to hear from you where you think we are right now when it comes to visibility for Asian Americans in this industry.
We should have a couple of glasses of wine and really
yes, I'm going to meet you.
Okay.
This is very dear to me. That's why I want to add too real quick. When I was graduating from UCLA, actually, my very last semester is when they created the Asian American Studies, and I became really involved. And I was so sad that it just happened in that last semester that I was graduating. So I never got to experience it the entire time I was there. So this is something very important and dear to me. And especially with our podcast here, like this is part of our mission.
Oh, this is so, you've got to join with us more closely. We have to continue to collaborate with you. You're perfect. You're perfect for this spirit. Yeah. I think I would say right now we are in a world of change. It looked pretty dim there for a while. Maybe there's a little glimmer of hope. And actually what I've been telling our staff, much younger, bright, smart, wonderful folks who are going to have to carry on this whole legacy is that, be in it for the long haul, right? Be in it for the long game, no matter what happens, right? When it's dark in America, that's when it's the most important we hang in there. So, that would be one preface. I think in terms of the industry, it looked like for a while, like, wow, we're light years ahead, not only Crazy Rich Asians, but Minari and Everything Everywhere All at Once. And, just so many important works are coming out. So I think in terms of if you want to be in the entertainment industry, it looks a lot brighter than it ever did for us. And yet we also sort of see those of us who are in media that we are in a big transition period, right? With the potential impact of artificial intelligence and what that means in terms of creating narratives and the whole way in which content is created and funded and distributed, right? It's all up in the air again. So that part's a little unsettled, but I think what you were referring to is even deeper. And it's more about this political, social, and cultural divide we face. And you know what? I'm tempted to think, I don't want to go too far with this kind of metaphorical analysis.
Please feel free.
Okay. I just think about in a way, human evolution and our own biology. You know, and I'm fascinated with history and in these advances now we find, you know, the human animal, the Homo sapiens, we're not evolving fast enough is one of the problems. We're a predator who is still ruled by impulses and, you
Greed?
know, with the abuse of power. I mean, someone like, well, I won't even mention the names,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not even just an American, right? We see it
Mm-hmm.
worldwide, right? That yeah, it's the murderous ape that wants to hold on to the banana and not let anyone else have it. And I think we are capable of so much more, and I think there are spiritual aspects, and I just respect all spiritual traditions that have tried to help us aspire to what's better, the better angels, right, of our nature. But it's a struggle, and we are in that struggle. And I do think those of us in media, I think the power of storytelling, it is how we form our own sense of morals, right, and
Yes.
how we look upon what we need to do to be a complete and full human being. I think we all try to do our best to pass that along. There are so many ways in which a young person, though, could be damaged, and clearly, you know, we're seeing the effects of people who were damaged very much, and they only look out for their own interest, and that is disturbing. So I hope that in a way didn't get too weird on you for
No,
me to
no, not
give
at
the answer.
all.
Yeah.
I think we're at a very pivotal time, you know, and I think, again, like for me, I feel it's so important to have that representation, to have the visibility, to have people know that we are a community that exists. And I can imagine the challenges because when you say Asian American, there's so many of us, right? It's such a large diaspora. I have just about 2 minutes here, so I do want to wrap up on a fun note and ask you: are there any upcoming projects or programs that CAM is working on that young filmmakers should be excited about, or any one of us in general?
Woo! Yeah, you know, there are so many ways I could say that. I would say one of the things is I absolutely believe all of us are storytellers, all of us, you know, and it's definitely true that a relatively smaller number has the drive, has the has the need to become a storyteller professionally. It's a hard road, particularly in the independent field, but I think we can all appreciate. So to bring that out, I think all of our programs really are about finding yourself, what you're capable of, centering yourself, becoming a storyteller yourself. So one area I think is so interesting for us. Let's say let's do a premise that for the African American community, you know, the incredible gifts in music to give us jazz, you know, to give us hip hop, you know, really remarkable. What is it for Asian Americans overall? You know, sometimes I feel it is in the culinary arts in a way. It is in so food stories fascinate me. You know, I love seeing it. I think it's the way we all of our communities express love and care for one another is done through food. So let's lean in on that. We're looking at some different projects that have to do with the phenomenon and important cultural role that Asian grocery stores play. And I think,
Oh,
yeah, isn't
you
that
got
kind
to
of
call me
cool?
on that, Stephen, because the Indian ones, I got stories for you.
Oh, that's perfect. Let's do a program together on it.
I
I would
grew
love
up
to
on
hear your
that.
ideas.
I grew up on that. I have so much to share about it.
Yeah, it's the way we come. You see yourself right when you go
Yes.
into a South Asian grocery store. It's like it feels comforting. It feels like home. And then for us who appreciate it, it's like I want to learn how do I use these ingredients. Right? It's yeah. That's the fun thing to always
Oh.
find that new kind of story to tell.
And I think that's great because, especially with our times changing right now, too, right? Got to stay innovative and exciting. We have so many different generations we're catering to. Stephen, tell me, how can people find you or connect with CAM, the website, social media handles? What can we share with them?
Well, I hope you have your own landing site so someone can go there. But what I would say at cammedia.org is our website. You can find all of the resources there and how to get a hold of us and follow us. Our primary social media platforms are Facebook, Instagram, and just starting out TikTok. So
Yes, I saw your video on TikTok, and that's CAAM, CAAM.
That's right. Thank you, Rasha.
Well, once again, it has been such a pleasure speaking with you. Stephen Gong from CAAM, thank you for joining us on today's show. And I would also love to hear from all of you, our viewers, our listeners, about any suggestions that you may have for future topics or even guests. And a reminder, do not forget to subscribe to our program on your favorite podcast platforms, which include, and following us on Facebook, Twitter, X, as well as Instagram, and of course, our YouTube channel. Now, just a reminder, Asian Pacific Voices Radio is produced by Asian Culture and Media Alliance. We are a nonprofit that empowers the Asian Pacific American communities with a voice through media arts. If you'd like to contribute or support our program, please do visit us at AsianPacificVoicesRadio.com. Once again, I'm Rasha Goel. It has been such a pleasure talking to all of you and bringing these insightful and beautiful conversations. Thank you for joining me on Asian Pacific Voices Radio. Until next time.